course, that was the celebrated Boccherini Minuet. Yeah, some ballet music to start the program. A late program today. We won't go terribly long, but thought I'd do something. Just come back from a kids' ballet concert, and I heard that piece, and it brings back memories because I actually played it as a kid on my cello, and also it features in a really excellent film with Peter Sellers called The Lady Killers. I think it's got Herbert Lom in it as well. So, yeah, that's a film from the 1950s. Just thought I'd play a little Boccherini to grace the program. I don't know if Frank's with us or not. I didn't give a lot of forewarning about this. It was an unknown quantity as to when I was going to start, but we might just sort of carry on for an hour or so, see what happens, play a few records. So we've got a 78 on the platter, and it's an old Brunswick record from 1928, and a track by the Clevelanders. Now this has got a bite out of it, this disc, so I'm not sure how it's going to work, but we'll give it a go, and we'll start and then fade. I think that's the preferred approach. Here we go, we initiated, and it's a track called You've Gotta Know How to Love. The Clevelanders from about 1928. Hits on 160 and on UHF, vk3sl testing on these frequencies and also streaming online, as this is a weekend event, usually from 5 p.m. later today, but Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays when I'm around, we do test missions around dinner time, and we will usually have a late session on Fridays at 11:30, so you can tune in then and hear the classical faves, historic recordings predominantly. That's the name of the game, and usually we work with Frank, Mr. JR, who may or may not roll up. We'll see what's happening. So what we'll do is play a couple more 78s, I think. Yeah, maybe another side or two, And then maybe I'd square up a couple of recordings of Miff Mole. I've been listening to a lot of Miff Mole lately, and there's some very interesting material that has surfaced online, which I want to share with the abundant community of 20s music enthusiasts, people who enjoy the modulated test responses of a trombone. What's the other side of this? That Night in Araby, that's the Clevelanders. Do we play it or save it? What else have we got in the pile? I'm riffing through the pile of 78s, and we have the Doll Dance piano duet with Constance Merring and Muriel Pollack. That's a catchy tune, the Doll Dance. Sort of palm courty, really. But this is worth a go. It's a Columbia 78 from the mid-1920s. It's a Speed 80 record. So that suggests that it would have to be most likely pre-1928. So here we go. The music of Herb Brown, the Doll Dance, piano duet with Constance Merring and Muriel Pollack. And I'm sure this will tickle our sensibilities. It might need a nudge. There we go. Oh, we're on. We're on. And I'll just advance the fader. And yes, that was a recording of the Doll Dance on a Columbia 78. I was reading about Miff Mole and I lost track of that one. And it was a piano duet with Constance Merring and Muriel Pollack. And we'll keep that record out and feature the other side, and I'll do my due diligence and find out more about the artists involved. But I'd like to just do another short Miff Mole special, just to sort of pick up on some of the recordings we have played on early emissions. We've had a few programs on Miff Mole, and he's a trombone player who was very active in the 20s, particularly with Red Nichols, made lots and lots of records. And he was such an extraordinary musician. He had the most inventive solos, so creative. And we herald the likes of Bix and Louis Armstrong and the great cornet players of that time. But Mr. Mole was really didn't have many antecedents. Who was there? Kid Ory, perhaps? It was before the days of Jack Teagarden. So there wasn't many trombonists of note. And Miff Mole sort of developed this slightly academic style of playing, lots of arpeggios, sort of slipping and sliding, shuffling arpeggios, maybe, is one way to describe it. And there's a level of complexity in these solos which beggars disbelief. And I've been listening to quite a bit, and I just think they are amazing. And I found a really interesting analysis of some of those, so I'll sort of save it up and play it in a few minutes. But before doing that, we'll hear a little of Miff Mole. Here's a recording, I think, with Sophie Tucker, if I'm not mistaken. Let's check on this. Yes, Sophie Tucker. This goes back to 1924. This is one of his first recordings. So we'll hear Mr. Mole, Milford Irving Mole, back in 1924 with Sophie Tucker. And Red Hot Mama is the name of the song. I'm vk3sl, and we're testing on 160 and UHF. And streaming online.
I'm just a girl, a wonderful girl. I'm the sweetest one in town. You can search for miles around, and not one like me can be found. I've got a smile, a wonderful smile, and a certain little way. And every time the boys get near me, they look at me and say, Red hot mama, you're the one we need. Red hot mama, some charmer, yes indeed. They say that I should be in the follies, hot tamales. They say that I've got a pair of eyes, just like old Bengali's. I confess that I possess the sweetest charms in town. And unless I miss my guess, the boys all follow me around. I could make a music master drop his fiddle, make a bald-headed man part his hair in the middle. But I'm a red hot mama, but I'll have to turn my damper down.
And evidently that was Miff Mole on the piano, not the trombone on that record. And we heard Sophie Tucker back in 1924. So that's apparently the first recording. So I thought we'd sort of start off with that one. And then we can we'll sort of jump around a bit because we have heard a lot of these. We have played them, but, you know, I'm into the second and third and fourth takes because every time you hear masterful playing of this kind, it sort of assumes a different importance. Here we go. Here's one from 1928, Miff Mole and His Molars, and this features some excellent trombone work and a track called You're the Cream in my coffee, and that's what I'm hoping it'll do. If it lines itself up, and it has, it's ready to go, it's triaged. Let's go back to the jazz age. vk3sl. Great instrumental track from 1928. Miff Mole and his Little Molars with You're the Cream in My Coffee. Certainly had some dynamicism. Is that the word? I don't think it is, actually. No, it's not dynamic. It's sort of involved. It plays with it. It's the thing I like about these soloists is they play with your expectations. Suddenly there's an octave drop when you expect it to go up, it goes down. So harmonically he's sort of shifting and doing incredible things, and it's just tantalizing. I love it. So there we go. That was a track from Miff Mole. We'll play a few more. We'll see what else there is on the list. So I had a Miff Mole morning this morning while I was getting organised, and here's another one called Slippin' Around, another recording with Red Nichols, and it says here it's his magnum opus. Well, this should say it all. There we have Miff Mole and Red Nichols Slipping Around was the name of the track, and I can hear Frank.
Yes, good afternoon.
And hello to you, Frank. Hi.
Good evening.
And-
How are things?
Oh, good. Yeah, I've had a great afternoon. Yes, I've been watching all the young people perform on stage, and it's so good to sort of see young people express themselves and everything sort of happening. It's great. So,
Excellent.
thoroughly enjoyed it, seeing my offspring and lots of other kids just sort of doing their bit.
The ballet, yes.
Yes, ballet concert, but
Excellent stuff.
they had a good sound system, so that made a difference as well. And the only complaint was a very stuffy venue, but yeah, we were able to have it. But it was it was okay. It was
Can't
just
have everything.
Can't have everything, and but it was a very slick performance. Everything sort of moved well, and that's always a good thing in a concert when you have a pace.
Was it a particular, was it a range of numbers? Or?
Yes, a wide range. It's a ballet school. It's a local ballet school, and
Yeah, my
they have,
grandkids go to something like that.
yeah, look, they're good institutions. They allow the kids to find forms of self-expression. It's not high-stakes stuff at all. It's
Not
just,
at all, no. It's just for enjoyment, I think.
Yeah, it is, very much so. And
Self-confidence.
yes, definitely self-confidence, enjoyment, some beautiful gesture dances. I like contemporary dance because it's just about sort of expressing in a very individual way and, and gently choreographed, and all those things. It's about giving young people a structure to express themselves. So I think that is all worthwhile. Really good to hear. So Beatrice and Celia were both performing this afternoon, and they both did really well.
Oh, that's great. Really good.
Yeah.
They enjoy it, of course.
Oh, definitely, very much so. Yeah,
Yes,
it's a very big part of their lives. It's a very big part of our lives too.
Yes, I know. Emily and Sophia both enjoy it also, my grandkids.
Oh, tremendous. Oh, that's great. Yeah, it's a good thing. Anyhow, so we'll, I'll just sort of bunker down for a little bit. Kate's out tonight. I've told the fam that I'll delay dinner until a bit later, so I thought it would be fun to play a few recordings. And I've sort of I've struck upon some really interesting analysis of a series of Miff Mole trombone solos.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That last one sounded great.
Yeah, it's just amazing. I love his playing because he plays, I mentioned this before, he plays this with people's expectations. When you think he's going to go up, he goes down. So all the time he's sort of wondering, and he's got such a rich harmonic sense and such command. He's such a virtuoso on the trombone, embracing the jazz idiom in the very earliest time. Yeah.
Doing the unexpected it can be a very big part of jazz.
Oh, look, absolutely it is. And it's, it breaks down sort of formulaic traits and makes the music completely exciting and beguiling, and I love it. So being a trombone player, I sort of have a connection with that instrument. And hearing these solos, it's something so amazing. It was all recent times. It's been prompted by, I did a program a couple of weeks ago where I played a track called Eccentric with Red Nichols and his Five Pennies. Right. And this has just got the best Miff Mole solo in it, this record. I'll play it. I'll play it again because I've played it.
I must have missed it. I think it might have been while I was at the Bloom Day thing.
Yeah, look, I think it was, Frank. It was, but I have to confess something. I did play it about 3 times in a row a few weeks ago. So the listener may be a little overindulged, but
never.
We will have to give it another go. It's a track from 1927. It's Red Nichols and his Five Pennies. Now, I should qualify this. It's got another amazing attribute, this performance. Not only does it have a superb Miff Mole trombone solo towards the end, but before that there is a chorus with Mr. Nichols and 2 other trumpet players whose names elude me, but they play in close harmony, and it's just so well arranged and so well played, so musically played. It's a chorus, and you'll hear it, and it's just something else. It's completely on its own from that time. Considering this recording was made in 1927, I think it is really out there as one of the groundbreaking. I should say these. I'd categorise these rather than trad jazz being chamber jazz.
Yeah, sure.
Because they play so musically. They play like classical music, like a string quartet.
Yeah.
It's like that.
It's certainly beyond trad, isn't it?
Oh, look, it is. It's beautifully calibrated. They're listening to each other. It's got some gentle structure in it, and of course room for improvisation as well. But listen to that chorus effect with the three trumpets. Just there's no vocal chorus about halfway through, and then a glorious Miff Moll solo. So it's a track called Eccentric, going back to 1927. Yes, that would have to be some of the most sublime music making in that idiom that I've heard. I think it is totally and utterly, sorry, I've got you switched off, totally and utterly extraordinary. Yeah, amazing stuff. Eccentric is the name of the track. Isn't it just amazing?
That is very, very special.
Yeah, Manny Klein, Leo McConville and Red Nichols did that trumpet solo. Now, interestingly, they came back to it in, at least Manny Klein and Red Nichols did in 1959 and re-recorded that track.
Wow.
Miff Moll had long gone and the others had pretty much departed the shores, but he made a stereo LP in 1959 and revisiting some of his 20s hits.
And wow. Have you heard this?
Yeah, it's incredible. And I'll play that bit, and he plays exactly that solo, that ensemble solo. He obviously still had the charts for it, and two of the three musicians who are playing it on that 1927 recording are playing it here in 1959.
That is remarkable.
It is. It's totally extraordinary. And they've got a different bass sax player. In fact, the group's a little different, and it's primed up a bit. It hasn't got the same sort of intimate feel as the earlier recording does, but in some respects. But I'll just jump to that point because I did play this over and over and over again the other day.
Okay.
So we'll hear that particular solo and I'll let it ride out. So
I just say this is VK3JR in contact with VK3sl doing a test mission.
Indeed. And yes, on 160 and on UHF, and crossband duplex, and also
2 meters FM.
That's right. All right, let's hear a little of Eccentric, same track in 1959. I'll go back a bit more. I'll go back a bit more. Here we go. How about that? Same, or two of the same musicians in that recording, and effectively it was exactly the same. He was playing the same parts, but what is interesting about this? It sounds different, and I think a lot of it is the recording quality.
It sounds a lot different.
And I think there are a number of things at play here. One is that Red Nichols was at the very end of his career here. He's still playing very well and to a very high level, but he's got a much broader tone.
Yes.
And I think he may have been playing with a mute, as they always did in the 20s.
Yes.
So there's a sharper sound. And also, notably, he was probably using a narrower bore instrument in the 20s.
Yes.
All the brass instruments had a very narrow bore. They were brass band instruments, so they had a more concentrated sound.
Yeah, this is is it a broader sort of sound?
Yeah, it's more of a broader brassy
more
sound.
More of an open sound.
Yes, it is. And it has that swagger, which is sort of characterises jazz trad revival, and I don't entirely like that. But I mean, it's there, but it's okay, and also the drum fills are far more sort of involved. The drum fills in the 20s were very minimalist, and you didn't get that sort of hi-hat riding right through. You just got a choked cymbal. That was it. So there's a few sort of different points there, but
and I'd have to say there was a certain energy about the first.
Yes. That's right.
Drive.
Exactly. Musicians in their 20s as opposed to musicians in their 60s.
That's what it's all about.
Yes, I think there is. Yeah, there's sort of, it sounds more laid back, but I think the character of that 20s music is the fact that they're sort of on the front foot.
Totally. It just takes you with them, doesn't it?
It does, and they're inhabiting a new space. They're basically inventing a whole new idiom. So, that in itself is significant. But it is fascinating to hear essentially the same part.
I was being hypercritical.
Oh, no, it's good to be, because I think we have to see it in context and understand the sort of the differences, as well as understand, appreciate the fact that these musicians lived on and sometimes repeated their works.
At a very, very high level.
Definitely. There's no doubt about that. One of the most talked about of all Miff Mole recordings is a series of records he made for Edison in 1926. And he made them on Edison Diamond discs. And these are 4.5-minute discs, and which is unusual in the sense that most records at that time were only 2.5 minutes, to 3 minutes. Edison Diamond discs, you can get nearly 5 minutes on a record, so you could do sort of more extended stuff. And he must have been in a different headspace because he took a lot of risks here, and he just played the most unbelievably inventive solos. It's unimaginable. The problem is they're acoustic, so they're harder. It's harder to hear, and you've got to listen deeply. But what's going on in the trombone solo here beggars disbelief, and scholars have been talking about this for a long time. And what is extraordinary is 3 takes of this recording exist. And then, so I'll play one of the takes now of the whole thing, just to set the scene. And then I'll play this very short description, and this jazz historian has written them out, all 3 takes, and described them and played them, and he's actually written out the sheet music for people who want to play them. And I have to say, looking at the sheet music, it is totally extraordinary. Right. It is completely in another world, and it is another level above the solos that Miff Mole we hear on his regular material. So, exactly. I mean, they're already amazing, but these are just totally extraordinary. So, look, I'll start with this. It's a Edison Diamond disc for 1926. It is acoustic. It's not as easy to hear, but if you listen deeply, there is a lot going on, and the trombone solo about 2/3 of the way through is the one in question. And then we'll have a short break, and then I'll play this little chat. It goes for about 5 minutes, but it's certainly worth a listen.
Great.
So let's hear it. Hurricane is the name of the track. It's Red and Miff Stompers, recorded on Edison. They recorded this on other labels, but they're nowhere near as good as this version. So let's have a listen. Back to 1926. We have the extended version of Hurricane with Red Nichols and Miff Mole and the ensemble.
Oh, wow. Yeah, what a solo.
Yeah.
What amazing agility.
Yes, absolutely.
When you're
Incredible.
going from the sort of range of the instrument just in about 4 notes.
Yes, that sort of shuffling, arpeggiated feel.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And Red Nichols' solo was amazing too, as was Lenny Hayton, the pianist on that.
I was going to say, who was the pianist? He's really hot.
Yeah, really extraordinary playing. He was Whiteman's pianist, Lenny Hayton. Played
He
with the
was
Whiteman
way
band.
above the average, wasn't he?
Yeah. And at that time, Red Nichols was playing with Paul Whiteman, and then he left the band and then Bix joined. So there's a bit of a story there too.
Oh, wow.
So, amazing stuff. And look, so I'll continue now with this really interesting sort of look at the... wait a minute, I'll just better cue this up. This look at the 3 existing takes, which are sort of presented in sharp relief of, and he discusses it in detail and describes the attributes of each and how they sort of pick up and change. And by the third take, which is we haven't heard yet, it just gets more and more complex and more involved. But the only problem is that being an acoustic recording, you just don't get the luminous quality, so it's harder to sort of connect. You have
It sort of gets a little bit buried, doesn't it?
It does get buried in the texture. It just doesn't carry that well with through a gramophone horn. But anyhow, we'll listen to this chat. It's really, really compelling. I found this fascinating. It's a guy called Michael McQuaid, and he's a jazz historian. So let's hear him talk about 3 Hurricane solos with Miff Mole.
Trombonist Miff Mole is known for his technical virtuosity, but in return for making it all sound so easy, he is sometimes written off as a creative force. There can be a strange sort of reverse snobbery in the jazz world. Don't be polished, don't be professional, and don't be prepared. Irving Milford Mole doesn't exactly look like a wild jazzman either, but speaking as someone who probably looked more at home in a teacher's staff room than a smoky nightclub, I certainly won't be holding that against him. Some of Mole's solos are planned. I've discussed in a previous video how many of the jazz greats routine to their solos, including Armstrong and Hawkins, so that isn't surprising. A Mole composition like Slippin' Around is a showcase along the lines of Armstrong's Cornet Chop Suey, rather than being a melody for copious embellishment. I've also seen 2 original Roger Wolf Kahn orchestrations, each with trombone solos written out for Miff. One of these he recorded note for note, while the other he ignored entirely. He was clearly a master improviser, as well as a fearsome technician. Musicians have been eagerly discussing Miff's solos on the 3 takes of Hurricane by Red and Miff Stompers for years. Today I'd like to take a look at these 3 solos, as I think they demonstrate just how exciting and spontaneous Miff's playing can be. Here's Miff's solo from Take A. Listen out for his characteristic 8th note lines, large interval jumps, and allusions to the original melody.
Okay, this is take B now.
And now here's take B. Similar in shape at the beginning, later on it really diverges with a lot more deft sliding between notes.
And
Finally,
take C.
here's take C. By this stage, most musicians would be taking it easy in order to avoid a possible take D, but Moll's third solo is even more adventurous. Note especially the semiquaver run during the bridge.
Now he compares the takes.
In comparing these three solos, it becomes obvious that Moll predominantly uses 4 or 2-bar phrases. He begins each solo with a similar low passage, although take B differs slightly. Thereafter there are small changes in rhythm and articulation. The second 8-bar section takes off into a rapid-fire passage of eighth notes, but the detail differs in each case. By the time we reach bar 13, there are big differences in the shapes of the phrases. The bridge is where things get really exciting. Moll isn't content to play it safe, and instead seems to become wilder with each take. Similarities between the takes are much rarer here. Bars 21 to 24 offer the climax of each take, although Moll's methods for achieving this peak vary from climbing into the high register in take A, to sliding around surprisingly in take B, and dazzling with fast runs in take C. As bar 25 begins, Moll gets things back onto a similar track for takes B and C, with his variations guided by a clear desire to outline the falling line from C to B flat to A flat, following the chords. From bar 29, Moll echoes the rhythm of the melody line before ending each solo on the third, not the simpler tonic. His solitary mistake in the entirety of these three solos occurs when he momentarily plays over Red's break during take B, and even then it's a lapse in concentration rather than control. Most trombonists couldn't have pulled off one of these solos, let alone all three in a row. It doesn't sound like he's taking risks, because they aren't risks to him. Miff Moll's trombone playing throughout the 1920s demonstrates a remarkable balance between instrumental mastery and musical creativity. He doesn't play like Kid Ory, or Charlie Green, or Jack Teagarden, or J.C. Higginbotham, but that's just what makes him special. Like a tightrope walker, we are transfixed by his deft high-wire antics. They're entertaining as a spectacle, even though we feel certain he'll pull them off without catastrophe. But just imagine trying to do it yourself. Terrifying.
He now presents some other solos from other versions of Hurricane. It's another, I think he presents one or two more. have it. The entire Take C played there. That was Miff and Red's Stompers on an Edison Diamond disc recorded in 1926.
That was really interesting, taking it apart like that.
Yeah, it was good, wasn't it?
Really, really highlighted the differences between the takes.
That's right, exactly. And points where he wanted to stay the same and points where he wanted to differentiate. And I thought that was interesting too. And just the sheer virtuosity. There's nothing like it at that time. It's completely on its own.
I've never heard anyone play sort of slide to go from one note and then an octave higher in an instant. I can't really describe it, but it's just playing a low note, then you play an octave higher. It's just slide to it.
Yes, that's right. He used lip displacement.
Is that what it's called?
Yes, that's right. It's sort of an arpeggiated lipping technique.
Sounds like it'd be very hard to do.
Oh, it's really hard to do, and it was his own sort of thing, but it adds a lot of sort of constrained energy to those early jazz recordings.
Yeah, it's terrific.
And it's such a signature sound, and it was completely his own sound, and Dorsey tried to...
anyone else do it.
Well, Dorsey tried to copy it. Bill Rank was very good at it, and in Whiteman's circles, Bill Rank played the trombone, but other than that, there's nobody else. And then what happened in about 1928-29, Jack Teagarden hit the scene, and he was also a virtuosic trombone player.
Yeah, he sure was.
Yeah, and things changed from that point. He found a very lyrical, rawer style.
Oh, it was lovely, yes.
Beautiful lyricist. I mean, he played like a vocalist, and Jack Teagarden's just amazing, but a totally different style of playing, and that sort of garnished things. That became the new normal, and for there on, jazz. In fact, from that point on. Interesting, I should qualify this. Apparently, Jack Teagarden, as a 17 or 18-year-old, sat in on a Miff Mole session where Miff Mole was indisposed and played in that different way, and then the tide changed just
like that,
in an instant.
Yeah. I can see that the Teagarden style would probably have a broader appeal.
Yes. Definitely. It's very academic. Miff Mole style is constrained. It's not that listenable in one sense. You have to, but I find it tremendously exciting because
it's terrific. It just keeps grabbing your attention.
Yeah, it does, and I just love its sort of unpredictability and its harmonic congruity. It just
keeps taking your breath away, doesn't it?
It does. It totally. It does. It literally takes my breath away. Even if I've heard the same solo 4 times, it continues to do that. So I'm sort of very taken by that whole sort of aesthetic. And in that time, it's just a part of the language those musicians used. And sadly, well, I won't say sadly because everyone can evolve, but Miff Mole in later times, he just completely copied Teagarden.
Oh, what a shame.
He abandoned that whole approach, and I think it was very quickly seen to be old-fashioned. And,
I suppose.
He just played that rawer, sort of broader style. And he was a very fine session player, and he continued to work with a lot of orchestra. I think he worked with Benny Goodman for a while, played with Paul Whiteman in the late 30s, and he was very sought after as a session player right through the 30s and 40s, and kept going. I've got a recording of Miff Mole from 1945 lined up, and you'll hear that it just doesn't bear any resemblance really, or very minimal resemblance to the earlier style, and it's far more Jack Teagarden's influence. But look, it's worth hearing just to sort of
follow him.
Yeah, just to follow how things did evolve. He lived until 1961, but he had very bad ill health and wasn't able to play in the last decade of his life very much. So that's the story of him. But he made literally hundreds of recordings from about 1924 through to the early 1930s.
Oh, that's great.
So we got this marvellous legacy. And but it's just great to get something that sort of really profiles and provides, a sharp relief of different solos and different takes. And
I never heard anything like that style.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And I just being a trombone player, I just feel a real connection with that. I love that idea of being able to, and I know how hard it is to do.
I can imagine how hard it is.
Now, I know technically that, that tailgate playing and sort of a more melodic form of playing is so much more natural.
Sure.
But to sort of do that fast arpeggiated form requires such great lipping technique. So, remarkable stuff. But look, let's have a listen to this track, The Sheik of Araby. It's the Lawson's jazz band, apparently, and it features Miff Mole in 1945. So, yeah, it'd be nice to have a listen to this. And he still plays really, really well. It's great stuff. So recording from 1945, that's Lawson's, Yank Lawson's jazz band. And it did feature a very, very fine solo, actually. That was fantastic. It was really inventive. And, yeah, he just had a lot more space in it. But, yeah, it was actually a remarkable solo there with Miff Mole. And it's sort of, that is a very endemic of the, that sort of broader sounding brass. It couldn't be, in some respects, although it's the same style, essential. I mean, it's trad jazz, but it's that overblown, out there sort of sound.
That's it.
That, as compared to that sort of intimate chamber jazz sound that you had in the 20s.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I prefer the former.
Same.
And I yearn for that sort of intricacy.
A lot more intimate.
Yeah, that intimate sort of style of playing, and in a sense that was re-embraced in the 50s and 60s with bebop and other styles.
I was going to say, with the cool stuff.
the cool stuff, sort of picked up on the character of interplay that the musicians had in the earlier times. So it's an interesting one. And one of the criticisms I have of trad jazz, it just became louder and louder and louder until it became just the veritable wall of sound.
Yeah, it was like they were trying to outplay.
Yeah, and sadly, Mr. Armstrong had a bit to do with that as well, and in his sort of commercial stuff he did. But look, that's the way it went. And
but Armstrong back in the 20s was
he was very
terrific.
much the chamber musician. He was, and so there was it's a different aesthetic, I suppose, and it's just it's interesting to trace these developments. But I just thought it'd be good to profile Miff Mole. I've done a few programs, and I think there'll be a lot more because there's so much material, and it's all interesting, and musically it's so interesting. And I think Red Nichols in that earlier time was a fantastic player. He probably equal to Bix in many respects. In his inventiveness and just his musicality. It's just so musical. It's just he ghosts notes. He's got constant sort of phrasing in mind. He probably doesn't have the melodic inventiveness of Bix. Bix was one of a kind.
Yeah.
But Red Nichols was certainly a really interesting player, and all those sessions that he made with Miff Mole and Adrian Bellini and Vic Burton and others. Frank Teschmacher on the clarinet, amazing clarinetist too. I mean, they're just they're very intimate. They're just so quietly responding to each other, and so we have to celebrate those recordings, I think.
There was a commercial movie made about Red Nichols.
There was in the 50s. Yes, there was, and it sort of looked at his life. It was almost confused him a bit with Bix, and people sort of began almost, because Bix became a bit of a legend.
Yeah.
They sort of interchanged. Red Nichols copied Bix and played with very similar phrasing.
Yes.
And so, I think there's a film called The Boy with the Horn or Man with the Horn.
Man with a Horn, I think.
Yes, and so that was the term. That was the way they defined Bix. And I think that there's a bit of cross-pollination there, but that's fine. That's the way that pop culture defines things. It doesn't necessarily find a historically correct narrative.
You had a band called the Five Pennies.
Yes, well, all those recordings in the 20s are the Five Pennies.
Right.
And there was the Five Pennies and Miff Mole's Molars.
Oh, okay.
And they just sort of changed the name depending on what record company they were recording for.
Yeah, sure.
But there's hundreds of them. They made so many records in that period, particularly between 1925 and 1930. That period was just rife with, they were recording almost every week.
Yeah, oh God.
So it's a fantastic legacy there. I'll play another one from that period just to sort of set the. I'm going to have to wind up soon, but just looking at this whole situation. Here we have another one with Miff Mole. It's a track called New Twister, and it goes back to 1927. And I think this also features Red Nichols. I forgot that Eddie Lang, of course, is on those records too.
Oh, the guitar.
Isn't it beautiful?
Yeah, lovely. What a surprise.
Yeah. Oh, I just add so much. Can you hear Red Nichols? It's so musical. Everything's phrased. Everything's got shape.
Falls into place.
Yeah, it does. Oh, it's just marvellous stuff. So, anyhow, chamber jazz from the 20s, listening to recordings of Red Nichols and his Five Pennies with Miff Mole as a sort of focal point a little bit, because there's been a bit of Miff Mole, there's been a number of discussions about Miff Mole's background and contribution to the scene. Look, I'll play one more.
Okay.
Just one more. I've got an LP. Remember Robert Parker back in the 80s and early 90s? He's an Australian collector, and he put out jazz classics in digital stereo.
All right.
And I think he had a sort of contract with the ABC and put out these records. He did a whole series on Miff Mole and Red Nichols.
Oh, really? I don't know him.
Yeah, and he did a series of programs on ABC FM in the 80s and 90s. I've got a few on cassette and of his programs. They're really good listening. And he attempted to sort of redress these early recordings and make them all sound very modern with echo and stereo. And it sort of, he overdid it a bit, but look, at the same time, he did sort of advance the cause, and he probably brought that music to an audience that otherwise wouldn't have heard it.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah, so, anyhow, I'll dig up that LP and we can feature that. But here we go, is Margie with Red Nichols and his Five Pennies. We'll make this our last, I think, and then we'll just, we'll see where we go from there. Let's have a listen. There we have it, chamber jazz at its best, and recording with Red Nichols, Miff Moll and Fudd Livingston back in 28 I think it was. Yeah, so nice to celebrate these musicians, and we'll come back to this theme, I think, Frank.
Let's do it, yes.
Yes, for sure. I did find on the shelf Robert Parker's Jazz Classics in Digital Stereo, one of the albums in that series, and I'll ride out with that while I'm getting dins. And but before doing so, just a quick check-in. Next, you're away next week. You're going out to Brisbane, aren't you, or something?
I certainly am. We are, yes.
Okay, so
Thursday till Sunday night.
Oh, Thursday. Okay, so you won't be around next Friday. Okay.
No, sorry, no.
No, that's fine. You have a wonderful time. Enjoy.
We
enjoy
will.
your trip.
We're looking forward.
Yeah.
Catch up with a lot of friends and
Yes.
people, and going back to QU to Queensland University, I think, to see some, do a bit of reminiscing.
Oh, nice one. Oh, that'll be lovely. Oh, well, I wish you well. Have a safe trip and enjoy the sunshine. Hope the weather's good.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, it should be. I'm sure it will be nice. And, we'll look forward to hearing about it, Frank.
Oh, yes.
And
yes,
so it'll be a couple of weeks. It'll probably be Cup weekend, I expect, the following weekend.
That's right. We're back on the day before Cup Day.
Yes, right. Okay.
That's this Monday. So, yes, and then we've got the Friday after that, I'll be fine.
Yeah, okay. So let me get that right. This is next Thursday you're leaving, and then, okay, I've got it. Yeah. So you'll be back possibly, probably the following week. That'll be good.
Yes.
Excellent. All right. We'll look forward to that. And, it was nice to catch up on the coffee break this morning.
Yes, it was good. It was nice to talk to everyone.
Yeah.
Indeed.
It worked out well.
Yes, I think our numbers might be growing.
Yeah, it seems like it. Could you hear Frank OP okay?
Just.
Yeah.
We were just above it. I couldn't hear his first over. Something seemed to change.
Yes.
I couldn't really copy his first over. I did copy his second over.
Yeah. Okay. I certainly heard his second over, but not his first, yeah.
He was certainly you're competing with the noise, but I just need another dB or two and he'll be fine.
Yes, I think he's only running about 50 watts.
Yes, he is. That's right.
So I think that'll make a difference if he can.
When he runs some
serious power. Yeah. So he texted me and said that he had trouble hearing us, and he was able to use the SDR.
Yes, I think we're both. Well, you get into you don't need the SDR, I think.
Well, I usually don't very much. I did a little, and it just adds. Clint's usually very strong, but I found him better on the SDR today.
Clint was about the same strength as Frank. In fact, a little stronger, but these. Oh no, they're both. I found them both about the same to copy.
Yeah, sure.
Just Q4, as we say.
Okay. Yes. And DCP, I think he might be having a few issues with his system.
I usually get Michael very strongly, but I could still copy him because I think he's actually pretty close to me.
That's it. Yes, I think he's in Bulleen or somewhere.
Something like that's not that close.
Yeah. No, he usually comes in quite well, but I wasn't able to hear him this morning. But look, that's the way it is. People, systems coming. And we've had a lot of rain lately, of course, so they're probably up.
Chris is very strong, amazingly strong.
Oh, his signal is fully quietening, incredible. He must have a very efficient antenna.
He certainly must. He's 30 over on that. It's a pretty Scotch meter that this thing runs.
Yes, right. Interesting. Yes, I noticed that. I noticed that he was really fully quietening here. Very strong signal. I must send him an audio snippet I took.
And like that, I'm sure.
Yeah. And he on the SDR he was just as strong. So he must be equidistant to you or to me and the SDR and to you. And for it to work so well.
Sounds like, yeah.
Yeah, he's just got a really efficient system. Because if he's running a Valiant, I don't think Valiants have got more than 100 watts.
No, I don't think they have. I don't know much about them.
In fact, I have a feeling they're less than that. So, he must have a really efficient antenna. I have to quiz him.
You may have a linear. You got a linear?
Well, maybe he's using something. I know he's using a Johnson rig.
Yeah, that's right.
Rig. And but
they were very big, the Johnsons in the 50s.
Yes. I think he's restored one, and I've got a Courier amp here, but it's only suitable for 4080, and I need some assistance to get it going because it's got such high voltage on the 811s that I'm just not confident enough
No,
to.
be careful.
Yeah, I want someone with me if I was to muck around with that, because
Certainly would. Yes.
it's just too dangerous. So eventually, maybe not.
You're grounded.
Yeah, definitely. So anyhow, no, it's a good Saturday morning session, and we'll look forward to hearing more of OP. So next weekend we might have a program with OP, in which case I'd send you a link.
Please. Yes. If you send me a link, I'll be able to play it on my phone.
Yeah, for sure. So we can do that. It'll be up on YouTube. So yeah, all right then, Frank. Well, I take it you're busy tomorrow afternoon, and
yes, I'm certainly out of it tomorrow. I've got this christening on, and then
great.
Following that, there's a post-christening event, and then I'm coming back here, and we're having dinner with the extended family.
Oh, very good. That'll be excellent. Well, have a lovely time. Please send my very best wishes to your family and to Kathy in particular.
I most certainly will.
She's well.
Yes, I will. Thank you, and they're reciprocated.
Oh, thank you. All right. Well, we'll look forward to keeping in touch, and wish you well for your travels up north. And time will just go in a flash, and we'll look forward to hearing all about your trip. It'll be good.
Indeed.
All right
the best
then.
to you. Take care.
Okay then, Frank. Thanks for that, and thanks to listeners
Yes, we say good evening to the listener.
Yes, indeed we
Jamie,
do.
especially if you happen to be one.
That's right.
And we will get together, Jamie. I'll be seeing Jamie on Cup Day, actually.
Oh, okay.
At another gathering.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm going to do a little presentation there of some Ray Charles music.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, look, keep the playlist and we'll follow on and make it an extended program.
Okay.
That'd be really good. I'd love to hear more.
Okay.
That'd be really good. Fantastic. All right. Well, please pass my best wishes on to Jamie and and to listeners and Mr. Fleming and others. Mr. John's provided me with some really interesting looking tracks, but I just haven't had a chance to sample them yet.
Sure,
so we'll do that in due course and play them for sure. So, okay, well, we'll wind up now with just another 30 minutes of Red Nichols.
vk3sl going clear.
Okay, thanks so much, Frank. All the best to you.
Thank you.
This is vk3sl. We've been testing on 160 and on UHF and also streaming online. And we'll now wind up with just a 30-minute segment of or just play one side of this LP, I think, of Red Nichols, and Miff Mole is the name of the record. It's from Robert Parker, who produced these LPs in the 1980s. And he does give a little bit of a preview here. He says, trumpeter Red Nichols and trombonist Miff Mole were gifted young jazz musicians who met in New York in the early 1920s and together perfected what had become known as the New York style, a more introspective form of jazz than that of New Orleans and Chicago. In the brief time span of 26 to 28, Nichols and Mole made a series of recordings widely regarded as amongst the finest in the golden age of jazz. A selection of them are heard here for the first time in digital stereo impressions, vividly capturing the flavour of a unique period in the exciting experimental years of jazz. So, let's have a listen now to about 5 or 6 tracks of Red Nichols and Miff Mole. Thanks for listening, folks. I'm vk3sl, and we look forward to your company. Tomorrow afternoon, I'll be back at 5 o'clock for short missions. vk3sl. You've been listening to a selection of recordings from Red Nichols and Miff Moll, recordings reprocessed by Robert Parker on his Jazz Classics in Digital Stereo series in the 1980s. This is off an LP, and the original tracks were recorded in the 1920s. So this is the last track on this side, and after this we'll wind up for this evening and we'll be back again tomorrow. So thank you for listening, folks. We look forward to your company soon. I'm vk3sl.
Ain't had no loving, baby, since you've been gone. Corrine, Corrine, now, where you stayed last night? Corrine, Corrine, no, where you stayed last night? Come in this morning, sun was shining bright.